Hey, hey, welcome back to Moms in Timeout. I'm your host, Sarah Parise, and today I'm joined with Amy Henry. I'm just going to say it, parenting mentor extraordinary. Extraordinary. You have just got like all these little just tidbits and very easy takeaways every time we chat, and I'm so excited to dive in today. But before we do, tell us what it means to be a parent mentor.
Um, oh my goodness. It means in one sentence, my purpose is to make sure that no woman feels like they're drowning in motherhood.
And I love that sentence so much because so many, I think everyone listening can relate to that in some way, shape, or form of that feeling of drowning.
Yeah. It's been a very fulfilling job. I love it. Do you want me to tell you how I kind of got into
That
it?
was gonna be my next question. How did you
Okay.
get to this point?
Um, I was a nanny for 20 years and I nannied for the most incredible families. They were so wonderful. They were so kind. They opened their hearts, they opened their homes. They were amazing. And then I nannied for one family that was so good to me that I was like, you ruined me. I told them, I was like, you ruined me. I can never do this again. I can, nobody can follow you up. So I tried and I realized kind of the more money I made, the less I was fulfilled by what I was doing. And I realized that people that I had worked with previously cherished me so much and cherished the information and the insight that I didn't feel like it was fair that only the uber wealthy could afford that.
Mhm.
So I kind of branched out and organically one thing led to another. And I started sharing what I usually share with millionaires with everyone.
And I love that. The first time we connected and I heard your story of like, yes, I was doing what I loved, but it wasn't like who I wanted to do it with. And I wanted to work with just families that needed the help. Not
Yeah.
that they couldn't necessarily afford that like ubu bucks kind of help, but really needed it kind of day to day. So I think it's awesome that you shifted and you kind of rolled with it and then started your own company in just a different way,
Yeah.
catering to different families.
It's been a neat experience.
Mhm. And so we talked about all these things, like kind of the expectations that people have, especially around the holiday season. Like when we're recording this, it's like a couple weeks before Christmas. Everything is insane. There's parties and crafts and all the things the kids are involved in and everything the parents want to do. And so you broke it down very easily for me of like, it's not about these like grand gestures. It's about micro connections. And I loved that term. One, because it sounds digestible. It sounds like something I could handle these days. Tell
Mhm.
us what do you mean by micro connections?
Micro connections are exactly what they sound like. They are teeny tiny moments that you connect with your children. Because what I've realized is most moms are so hard on themselves and they think that they need to scroll Pinterest and find these amazing crafts and do these amazing activities. And I hear a lot, I just don't have time. I just don't have time because what they've told themselves in their brain is, I need 3 hours to connect with my kids. I need to go upstairs and sit for an hour and play whatever they are playing. And that is a lie. And don't let yourself believe it. You need seconds, like
Mhm.
seconds to connect with your kid, at most like 10 minutes, but it's just like these little teeny tiny micro moments where you build connection with your kids that build up to this wonderful magical loving connection in your family. And then every once in a while you can have some grandiose thing, but the
Mhm.
grandiose thing goes better because you've spent so much time building these teeny tiny connections in the middle.
And it's funny when we plan these grand things, and not that this is an example of a grand thing, but just yesterday, my kids wanted to make peppermint bark. And we do it
Uh-huh.
every year. It's usually a very fun thing to do after school. They honestly just want to use a hammer to candy canes. Let's be honest. We'll call it what
Of
it is.
course. Me too.
So we had this plan to like make this peppermint bark. Well, they both came home exhausted. They like It's been a really rainy week here, so it's gray, it's dark, it's definitely affecting everyone's moods. We're making this peppermint bark. The white chocolate seizes because that's what white chocolate tends to do when it gets too hot. And you're answering 17 million questions in between trying to stir chocolate and attend to your children. They're crushing the candy canes, the bag breaks, the candy canes go all over the place, the chocolate is seized. I'm like hands in the air, giving up, and I'm like, this is supposed to be like this moment.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't. It was not a great connection moment. I was angry. They were frustrated. There's pieces of candy cane literally all over our house because it's sticking to feet and getting dragged in carpets.
Oh,
And then
God.
just before bed last night, my daughter could not stop laughing. I think she was just overtired, and she kept laughing. And so then of course it made me laugh. And at that point of the day, I was like, I really needed this. And then her and her sister share a room. So we ended the day like laughing for like 3 straight minutes. And I was like, there's got to have a serious face, put on a serious face. And so none of us could. And it literally was like less than 3 minutes. And I'm like looking back on the day, thinking of what I planned out. And I went to the store and I did all the prep, and it was a freaking disaster. And then like going to bed is something so minimal that this morning they got up talking about it, how we couldn't stop laughing last night. Like in Mary Poppins when they laugh and they float to the ceiling. They love Mary
Yeah.
Poppins. And I thought about you and I'm like, this is what she's talking about. This is not, it doesn't need to be a super big plan thing. It can
Mhm.
be a real off the cuff and just really mindful moment. And that's what I thought last night of like, I was 110% in that moment, which is rare as a mom.
Yeah. And that's exactly, like exactly what I'm talking about. And even 3 minutes, it to you it sounds like it wasn't very much because your mom brain says I need to give my whole life and my whole world to these
Mhm.
kids. But really 3 minutes was a long time. And
Yeah.
if you
And I,
think about doing anything for 3 minutes, if you don't know how long 3 minutes is, I challenge you to sit still and put on a timer for 3 minutes and do nothing for 3
mhm.
minutes. And I bet most of us can't do it. And that kind
Mhm.
of proves like really how long 3 minutes is.
Mhm.
And
And
some like another just building on that bedtime thing, your connection can be so small. Like we have, and I'm assuming almost everyone has a rule, we don't throw in the house.
Mhm.
So if the girls sleep with like a teddy bear or a blanket or something and they need you to physically give it to them, if you toss it to them because you broke a rule in a very confined way, that's connection. Just that tiny tossing their teddy bear to them.
Mhm. And that actually made me think of when you explained the frame of that
Mhm.
boundary and that frame that kids need. Can we touch on that quick? Because I want to continue these micro connections of the frame of, like you said, your business is built off of.
Okay. I will try to go as quickly as I can because this is my passion point, so I could go on for this like forever. Okay, big picture parenting is a frame, and the four sides of the frame are connection. Obviously, we're going to talk this whole time
Mhm.
about that, but the second side is boundaries because when you build firm boundaries for your children, you are building a frame for them to flourish in. We went
Mhm.
to an art museum yesterday and I asked my husband, I said, what do all of these pieces of art have in common? And he was like, oh, they're all from the 1600s. I was like, no, look at them. Like, what is the same about every masterpiece in this museum? And they all have frames because our children need that boundary. They need that frame for them to be able to flourish. So the second part is boundaries. The third part is communication. The third side of the frame is communication because we have to be able to communicate our boundaries. But in order to connect with the people that we love, we also have to be able to communicate, not necessarily verbally. This is one that a lot of moms get stuck on, especially with younger kids and especially with COVID babies, because a lot of my COVID babies have taken longer to speak, but
Mhm.
there is a lot of types of connection and a lot of types of communication that are nonverbal. So there's a lot of
Mhm.
ways that you can communicate. And then the last side is grace, because there is nothing that mothers need to give themselves and their children and their spouses more than grace. If something
Mhm.
happens and you assume the worst of it, just take a second glance at it and ask yourself if maybe you could have jumped to the worst conclusion and and maybe whoever is involved just needs a little grace.
And I love that. That is my favorite piece. I mean, they're all so important, but we're so hard on ourselves all the time. Like when we spoke about what does the holiday season like look like for your family, and someone challenged me last week to I had like all these lists of things we needed to do. We needed to go through the walk through lights. We had to have built gingerbread houses. It was like a list of 10 things that my I thought my kids really needed. And then the advice that was given was, well, why don't you ask them what's the most important? So I did. So I asked my kids, so what is the most important this holiday season? What do we absolutely need to do as a family? And their responses blew my mind and took about 47 things off my to-do list because the things that they were looking forward to were not like lavish experiences or things that cost a lot. They wanted to watch The Grinch, like not the new one, not the Jim Carrey Grinch, but not the old one, not Grandma's Grinch. They wanted to watch the new animation one. I was like, what are you talking about? The 2018 Grinch, and they wanted to
Okay.
have a hot chocolate bar. That's what they wanted. Well, that's also what I want. I would love a night in where I don't have
Right.
to go somewhere, fight traffic, fight weather, all the things, and watch The Grinch. That was like the most elaborate thing that they mentioned. And it blew my mind. I was like, here I am thinking, putting all this pressure on myself, what I need to do, and all the things I need to do. Their expectation is totally different. They want something quiet, they want something at home, and they want the togetherness.
And I think that's amazing because it does point out that the little things are what they want. And it means you don't have to build a gingerbread house, which is my least favorite holiday tradition ever. There is
Mine
nothing
too.
that stresses me out more than building a gingerbread house. No, there is no way. I'm not doing it. I don't love anybody enough to build a gingerbread house for them. But I do want to hype you for a second because you asked them. And I know that sounds simple to you because somebody told you, "Oh, why don't you just ask them?" And so you did, but how often do you actually ask the girls in the middle of the chaos in the middle, "Hey, what do you want?"
Mhm.
Because they'll tell you. So when we are making all of these assumptions and we're thinking they need this and thinking they need that, if you just pause and communicate one of the sides
Mhm.
and ask your children, okay, but what do you want? I Can you say how old your kids are? Because I don't know if
They're,
everybody.
yeah, they're 6 and 8.
Okay.
So kindergarten and second grade, they know what they want.
But they're young, and a lot of people assume because they're children, they don't have an opinion or their opinion's going to be off the wall. A lot of people, especially with the younger kids, just don't think to just ask them. Like just
Or you assume that they're going to say, like, we've been talking about going to like the Polar Express, which is like 5 hours from here, like out in the mountains. I was afraid if I asked and that's something that they came would come back with, I can't make that happen this year. Like you got to have tickets months in advance. So my mind jumped to that like kind of worst case scenario of, well, what if they ask for something and I can't provide it to them?
and if they did that, that's the perfect opportunity to just again have a conversation with them, which is a micro connection, and
Mhm.
say, "Oh my goodness, I had no idea you wanted to go to the Polar Express this year. It requires tickets months in advance.
Mhm.
So let me," and then whatever story you tell them. I don't know if you tell them you have to write a letter to Santa Claus to ask him for tickets
Mhm.
or whatever, and say, "I will definitely put that on the top of our list for next year." And then
Mhm.
you have a whole year to plan how you're going to make the Polar Express happen. But you just
Absolutely.
communicate that with them.
hmm I think that's a piece that we miss, and I missed it a lot when the kids were even younger. Like they understand a lot more than we give them credit for. And
Yeah.
I was like frustrated one day, and I literally was talking to my 3-year-old like she was you, and I was just telling her like how hard the day had been. Like it was like we were in the middle of COVID. We were like the groceries didn't come. Like it was just like a bunch of things. And she looked at me with like the most innocent face and was like, "It's okay, mommy. It's okay to feel that." I was like, what? What just happened here? Like, and my whole perspective shifted with talking to her about like what is really going on. Like, I always had a mom that like put on a happy face regardless of what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think that's how I was parenting without even really realizing it. And now I parent like a real human, and they know I have emotions. They know when I'm sad. They know when I'm frustrated or upset because it's okay. Like they say, it's okay to feel the feels
Yeah.
and to do this.
But teaches them when they grow up and they move out of the house, they know how to handle the feelings that they're going to have. They didn't grow up being like, oh, grown-ups don't have any feelings and it's going to be great to be a grown-up. They're going
Hmm.
to be a grown-up and be like, wait a second. I saw my mom walk through this. I walked through this with my mom. I know how to handle this.
Yeah.
So even you just admitting that you have feelings is
Hmm.
is beneficial for them.
Thank you. I needed that validation today because sometimes, some days you're like, oh my goodness, what am I doing?
I get that. Trust me.
And I know you do because you got kids of your own and you're living it. What
Yeah.
are the best ways or your most favorite ways to have those micro connections with your kids?
Well, if you have firm boundaries, my favorite and easiest way is to break your boundaries.
Hmm.
So I am incredible. I have very firm, stern boundaries, and our boys know exactly where they stand at all times. They know how I'm going to react. They know the rules. They know everything.
And how old are
So
they?
our boys are 13 and 16.
Mhm.
I have a teenager that I still like, and he still likes me. So if that's not saying something, like I don't have better proof than having a 16-year-old boy that likes me.
Mhm.
Um, for instance, one day, um, we sent the boys to bed, and this has been a couple years ago, so I think their bedtime was like 8 o'clock.
Mhm.
And one of our like little family things that we enjoy doing is going to Andy's frozen custard. I don't
Mhm.
know if you have an Andy's
We
out
don't have that here, but that sounds something right up my alley.
there. It's just a drive-through frozen custard place. They have like a
Mhm.
walk-up window and they do like concretes and you can get mix-ins
Mhm.
and Um, and it's something that another micro connection where we all pile in the car, we run and get ice cream and we come home. No big deal.
Mhm.
But one day we put them to bed and at like 8:30, I told my husband, I was like, I'm gonna wake the boys up. We're gonna go get ice cream. And I think it was a Friday night, so it didn't matter. The next day, ran upstairs and I was like, boys, get up. And they were like, what? They thought they were in trouble. They're like, what? I was like, get up right now, get dressed, and come downstairs. And they did. And they were like, what's going on? And I was like, we're going to Andy's. And they just lost it. They were so excited
I
to
love that so much.
just go and get ice cream at 8:30 at night. And it was just the
Mhm.
simplest thing. But 2 years later, they still talk about it. They're like, remember that time you woke us up to go get ice cream? We thought we were in so much trouble. Um, so anything that kind of realistically breaks a boundary. Obviously,
Mhm.
don't go do violent or angry boundary breaking, but
Mhm.
like I said earlier, we don't throw in the house. So sometimes I will throw them their pajamas or throw them their clothes to
Mhm.
put away. Um, one that we just did the other day, I was scrolling Instagram and I found this reel where this lady had stuck tiny miniature baubles and Christmas decorations in a bottle of soap. And
Mhm.
it was just like decorated soap. That was it. And so one night for 10 minutes before bed, I laid out like glitter and some tiny miniature Christmas ornaments and a couple other things. And we just spent 10 minutes before bed shoving tiny Christmas ornaments in soap bottles. And then the boy, yes, my teenage boys do this. And then
I saw that on your page, on your Instagram. I was like, I'm obsessed. I love this.
yeah, and then we went and we put them in whichever bathroom that you wanted your soap bottle in. And it makes me smile now because I get soap out of this little soap dispenser that we decorated together. And it makes me so grateful that I have teenagers that will jump into my shenanigans. So
Mhm.
if you're scrolling Instagram and you see a cute little project that should be fairly easy,
Mhm.
just grab the stuff and do it in 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to look Pinterest worthy. It just
Mhm.
throw it together.
I love that so much. And the idea of just being able to like do it and it doesn't need to be perfect. And if you don't have all the supplies, well, you just make it happen with what you do have, kind of
Yeah.
thing. And I love that mentality. Not only the micro connections, but did your husband help with the soap bottles also?
Oh yeah, we all four sat down and we each
Mhm.
made a soap bottle.
I love that because the micro
Yeah.
connections isn't just with kids. We talked about it with our partners also. It doesn't have to be like a lot of people are like, oh, don't forget to have date nights. And you're like, you have kids and families and work and everything else. And you're like, how do you don't have babysitters, all these things. So can
Yeah.
we shift gears a little bit and talk about the micro connections with your partner?
Yes, because that's my other favorite thing is there's micro connections, but there's also micro dates, which are
Mm.
just teeny tiny little bitty dates. We had one, I don't know, in the last few days. My husband is uber nerd. Like he is king of the, if there was a king of the nerds, it would probably be my husband. And he has these little, they're called Warhammer, and they're little models that they do wargaming with. But the point is you have to paint them.
Mhm.
And it is not my jam at all. But I bought one from this war gamer that I just think she's the best thing ever. And so, and she made her own model. So I bought one for my husband and one for me. And we have just, after the kids gone to bed, set everything out on the table and painted these little models together. And this one miniature has probably been, I think it's 5 date nights so far. They're just little micro dates where we sit at the table and we paint these little models together and we talk. And the other night, and then we do a lot of them at Christmas time. So we also have done
Mhm.
one this week where we made, I called them trash panda cookies. So they were just
I'm
like
intrigued.
they I browned some butter and had that done ahead of time because it's kind of a longer step.
Mhm.
And we made a chocolate chip cookie base, but instead of putting chocolate chips in it, we put golden raisins, golden Oreos, and rolled gold pretzels,
Mhm.
and just kind of crushed them up like little trash pandas do, where they just eat everything, and just
Mhm.
crushed up some random stuff and put them in the cookies and made cookies together. So it doesn't have to be like some big extravagant thing. Really,
Mhm.
the point of a micro date is saying it's a date. You
And
just
that's huge.
you just
It's
say that
such
this is
a You're so right of like just saying it that it's a date. And anything beats plopping on the couch with your phones or the TV and to actually connect and talk and to do something like you said, not something you have a passion for, but
Mhm.
I'm sure obviously you have a passion for your husband, so why not sit and do something that he loves and to paint and to chat.
Right. Or I mean, I don't know what everybody's husband likes to do. You can do a woodworking class together. If your husband's a IT guy, you can do sit down and build some little kit together. Or if you guys just like coffee, you can say, do you want to have a the verbiage you would use is, do you want to have a coffee date in the morning? And you and your husband intentionally get up 30 minutes before the kids get up, make coffee, and sit at the dining room table and have a date. That's it. That's all it takes.
Mhm. That's so for me and my husband, we connect through workouts. So, I mean, it doesn't happen as often as you think it would with a gym in the garage, but we'll
Right.
be like, okay, this Sunday, let's work out together. And we pick something that we're both into or more something that I'm into and he'll follow along with. But even if it's 15 minutes, it's just a way to, like you said, the intention is to connect.
Yeah. And you ask him. That's the other thing is the verbal part of it, the communication part of it is paramount because saying, "Would you like to work out with me on Sunday at 10 a.m.?" It sounds minimal, but
Mhm.
that is the part that makes it connection. That is the part that makes it a date, is verbalizing your intention to connect with your husband.
It's like that invitation for
Yes.
intention of it.
Yes.
That's amazing. Oh, I could talk about this stuff all day. I love how small and doable it is, and it pairs like perfectly to my whole stick of 2% of the day needs to
Yep.
go towards you, whether it's physical, mental, or emotional, or a combination of all three. It's so much easier than we allow to think about it like that. It doesn't have to be these huge projects or trips or all these expensive things that you can really do it in tiny bits of time, which
Yeah.
is very inspiring. And it gives you hope that you're like, I can do this through the course of the day.
That's what I want. I just want you to have hope that
Yeah.
like or relief. I want you to feel relieved
Yes,
that
that's the feeling.
that this doesn't it doesn't have to be extravagant. And if people don't know where to start, if this is completely new to them and they're like, okay, I'm buying in. I'm buying in. I believe you, but I don't know where to start.
Mhm.
You can either just start by taking a walk together, or if you want to send me a message, I have a list of micro dates and a list of micro connections that I'm happy to send people, because I know that sometimes you buy in, but then you're like, now I have 9 gajillion other things to do. I don't have time to then also think about what this
Mhm.
change is, because it is a change, and any change is difficult. So
Mhm.
if people need like that little jump start, I have lists for both of these things.
Thank you for that. I
Of course.
absolutely love that. And I'll be taking you up on that offer because I think it's easier. Like women say to me all the time, just tell me what to do. Like, Amy, just tell me what to do. I will do it. I will invite Joe to do these micro dates if
Right.
I have the ideas to do it. I love that. So, how can people reach out to you?
I am on Instagram at Big Picture Parenting. I have a website that is we don't say can't.com. My website's kind of janky right now, but my first quarter for 2025 is I'm going to revamp it. So it'll be a little easier to navigate if
Oh,
people.
you and me both. We should hold each other accountable for this.
Yeah, I joined a group for it. So
Good for
I will
you.
have accountability to hold you accountable.
Love it.
Um, and then I'm also on TikTok as Amy with the Big Picture. TikTok is a little less serious. You can kind of see my goofy side if you go over there. Or they can email me at coachamy@we don't say can't.com.
Awesome. And I'll put those links in the show notes too. So it's just you're one click away and just drop her a message saying that you want a list of micro connection ideas or micro date ideas. And I mean, every conversation we've had has been amazing and always a good takeaway. And that's why I'm so happy to have you today.
I do want to give a disclaimer. Please reach out to me. I am just a regular person with a dog that barks in the middle of podcasts, if you hear him. You are not a burden. It is okay for you to ask for help. You are more than welcome. Everybody, please message me. All you need in motherhood is to ask for help, and someone wants to help you. And that's me. I want to help you. I want you to enjoy motherhood. I want you to feel like you're thriving and not drowning. So please don't feel like you're a burden if you reach out to me.
I love that disclaimer. And I'm totally stealing that.
Good.
That's how I feel. Exactly. Of like, just even if I give you one little resource that can make things 1% better, it's
Yeah.
better than you came to me in. That's
If you're
perfect.
1% better, you're halfway to 2%.
Look
So,
at that.
yeah.
Halfway there already. I
Yeah.
love that you're a glass half full type of gal.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Go make sure you go check out Big Picture Parenting, and I'll drop all the links in the show notes, and we'll be in touch soon. Hope you have a great
Okay.
day.